But Kevin, let's shift gears here. Welcome in Evelyn Baker, TD Ameritrade Network contributor, to talk about a name that I feel like we have talked about so many times this year, and for good reason. Zoom Video, stock down 23 bucks today. That's 5%. Evelyn, what are we focused on here with Zoom Video?
To bed that I've been seeing on social media the past couple of days. Apparently, there's a false press release going around that Zoom would be entering the S&P 500 index on January 15th. That is not true. So unfortunately, Zoom will not be entering the major index, but I just wanted to go ahead and squash that because I saw a few tweets about that today when I was looking up Zoom. But Zoom is definitely the stock of 2020. I mean, it's become its own verb. People say that they're going to Zoom so-and-so, or people are doing Zoom for their offices. So it's really been such a huge factor for this year. And that's really what I wanted to focus on with the tweets that I found for you guys today. But Zoom is down about 5% today, Alex, you said, but the stock is still up about 460% this year. And lately, it's been seeing another recent boost as a new strain of COVID-19 has appeared in the UK, leading to new lockdown measures. In fact, we've seen really all year how Zoom has traded right along with the coronavirus cases that we've seen. In fact, the stock made all-time highs of $568 on the same day that global cases of COVID-19 topped 40 million for the first time. And since then, shares have lost more than 30%. So they definitely have come down in the past couple of months. But some reports came out today that Zoom is exploring email and calendar services that it may roll out to some customers next year. And that would be in addition to, obviously, it's virtual conferencing. So maybe that's where Zoom is trying to shift its focus. But also, recently, Zoom said that for the holiday season, it's going to be removing the time limits on its free accounts, as it knows how important its service has become to so many users this year. And with that, I have this first tweet for you guys today. And this tweet is back from March of this year. But this Twitter user said that me and my sisters and cousins are about to Zoom video chat for my sister's 30th B-Day. How sad, but you got to make the best of things. And Jules, I can commiserate because, I mean, so many people had birthday celebrations, weddings, so many big things that happened in their life this year that happened instead over Zoom. And not to like fluff up the company really too much, but that just is how impactful this specific name has been this year across so many of its different users. So I think it's nice that the company is extending those or is removing the time limits for the holidays, and so many people aren't able to be close to their loved ones this year. But Zoom, obviously, like I mentioned before, wasn't just used for personal reasons. People were also shifting to Zoom for their workplaces. And with this next tweet that I have for you guys today, it seems that even Santa Claus might be using Zoom this year. Sarah on Twitter said, "My kid is having a Zoom video chat with Santa, and it's super adorable." I've heard a lot of these holiday type Zoom situations with Santa, or even seeing Santa in a bubble at the mall. It seems like peak 2020. But Zoom last reported earnings for its third quarter at the end of November. And with that earnings report, we saw how it wasn't just the stock name or the company name being used as a verb this year, or that its stock price ran up so exponentially this year, but also that the company really expanded its revenues and really expanded its user base. So the company really saw so much strength this year. But moving on to next year, in fact, Kevin, I want to direct this question your way. Moving on next year, in the middle of the year, when we are supposed to get these hundreds of millions of doses of coronavirus vaccines, I guess my question for you, Kevin, is where do you see Zoom in a post-pandemic world? Are people still going to be conferencing as frequently, or will Zoom sort of take a backseat role in the next coming years?
Well, I think Zoom is in my opinion, in terms of a stock, the story of 2020 is Zoom Video and what this stock has done and how they have embraced this pandemic. And I think they've injected themselves into the U.S. economy, never to be taken out, frankly, or I don't like to say never, but this is a company that will be around for a long time. That's the really good news, right? that's not how we make our money here and how we get paid. We get paid on the movement up or down of the stock. So as good of a job as this company is as high quality of a job, of a company that this is, we still have to trade the stock. And the stock, was $588 a short time ago. Now it's $385. And so the direction is not as certain as the future of the company. I think the future of the company is certain. The direction of the stock, well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, guys.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. It's certainly been one that has gotten that viral treatment, no pun intended, in terms of being able to kind of command the space, with Zoom video almost being the verb, as you said, Evelyn, for video conferencing. So we'll see where it goes. 2021, certainly one that will be interesting for this stock and so many. But Evelyn, we've got to leave it there. Have a great holiday season. Thanks for joining us. As we say goodbye to Evelyn, I want to welcome in Megan Brantley, the VP of Research at LikeFolio.com. Megan, as Kevin said, in many ways, this really is the stock of 2020 for many reasons. One, the volatility in the name, obviously the tailwinds from the virus and the work from home transition that we've seen across the world and here in this country. Zoom video in many ways is kind of the mascot for that. So is the data still suggesting that this is going to be a real winner going forward, or is it starting to come back to earth a little bit?
Okay, so just to set the stage for this, we come on the show all the time and we talk about how consumers are interacting with a company. So what are consumers downloading Zoom? Are they using Zoom in this instance? And just across the board, we cover more than 300 companies. Okay. And right now we're a couple of months post, the really big surge and onset of this pandemic in March. Zoom is still the company of all the ones we track that is experiencing the most robust growth year over year. And it's by 4x. And whenever you look at who it's in company with, who is right behind it, you're talking about Peloton, you're talking about Nautilus, looking at Shopify, NVIDIA, these are really good names alongside Zoom, and Zoom by far exceeds all of them in terms of year over year growth and just sheer adoption from consumers. And so you can see here that purchase intent, like I was talking about. So these are mentions of people who are downloading and then using Zoom. And it does look like it has settled a bit from that huge peak, but I think what's significant, look at that year over year growth. That's over 900%. That's insane. And we're still, we're multiple months out from the onset of this. So I think that this shows, Zoom's staying power. I think that, from a competitive perspective, when you look at Microsoft Teams, a lot of people like to compare these different work from home brands. Microsoft Teams, we're seeing about 55% year over year growth versus 900%. So I think the scale of Zoom, Kevin, you really hit the nail on the head that this is the name in 2020, at least from our data. This is growth that is pretty unprecedented.
Yeah, Megan, it's interesting. I look at your consumer purchase data. I look at the chart of the stock, and you've got them neatly laid over. And look at the kind of the lag in where the stock is based on where the consumer purchase data is. And, there's no doubt that this company is a long-term player and has redefined, the meeting space, not only for companies, but for individuals even. But that doesn't mean, as your data shows, that this data can't trail off. And as more vaccines come, it's not going to, Zoom's not going to get financially hurt by this, but their growth could slow. And that's the real question is, no matter what happens, their growth probably won't be 900% going forward. It's not going to be an annual number. So the growth of this company has to catch up to the stock price, or the alternative is the stock price has to come down to a reasonable number. No one would think that Zoom was any less quality of a company if this stock was trading $200 versus $385, guys.
Megan, at that point, then it's going to be difficult, obviously, to Kevin's point, for a stock like Zoom, company like Zoom, to maintain that growth. I don't think anybody would argue that point. So when you zoom out, then do you look more at macro trends? Then do you have to look at, what does the workforce look like? What are the reasons Zoom has saw this growth? Is it because more and more are working from home? Is it because of social distancing? Is it because of the virus, or is this technology that's going to be sticky? Is this something that many that are working from home are never going to go back to an office space, at least maybe not full time? Is there other trends that you have to track to kind of better handicap what the situation for a Zoom might look like?
Yeah, I think that you have kind of two buckets for Zoom. You have your professional use case and your personal use case. I think from a personal use case, this is really dependent on this social distancing and this virus, people trying to connect from afar and stay safe. And I think that Zoom is the obvious winner there, right? You're never going to Microsoft Teams your grandma. Like if I tried to send a Microsoft Teams link to my grandmother to video conference me, she'd be like, get out, Megan, we can't do this. But Zoom, she's completely proficient. So I think that you have that bucket to look at. That is a little bit more dependent on, not being able to physically see someone in person. But then from this working from home, so this chart, you can see we've pretty much leveled out and we're maintaining. Now it's up about 281% year over year. These are mentions of people who are talking about working from home, but it's down about 10% quarter over quarter. So it is starting to trail off, as Kevin mentioned. And so I think that this, though, if you look at this chart, the pattern of this chart, and compare it to the pattern that you saw on Zoom, it's very, very similar. So this is a trend that we definitely are watching closely because, as people start to return to the office, you may lose some of that dependency on Zoom technology. And so whenever we start to see a significant break in this, that might be, a bit of a warning sign for us. Right now, we're seeing it start to temper a little bit, but there's no significant drop off. You don't see this huge tank. So I think that this is something that we still have a couple of months to watch this play out and to watch to see, okay, what's the efficacy of these vaccines? How are consumer behaviors changing? Right now, there hasn't been a massive shift, but in a few months, there definitely could be. And that's something that, is going to be a real test for Zoom to see, okay, yes, it's easy to use, but is it the top priority? Is it necessary long term? And are any competitors or these other options, are they starting to be more appealing to the business and professional users of this software?
No, I think it's a great point, and it's an interesting trend that we'll need to monitor, and I'm sure we'll talk Zoom again soon. And maybe, Megan, we're out of time now, so we can't continue the conversation. But I'd be interested to see, I think, maybe the trends of people talking about going back to the workplace, because I know in Kevin and I's situation, we've been working from home for quite some time. I'm not sure I'd be as quick to comment maybe on social media about still working from home, but if for some reason it were to change, maybe I would talk about going back to the office. I wanted to see, interested to see maybe what the growth trajectory looks like about people going back to the workplace too. We'll save that conversation for maybe after the new year, Megan, as we certainly will come back to Zoom video once again. Megan Brantley, always a pleasure. The VP of Research at LikeFolio.com.